Hello there, my very good friends. On this wrestling news video, we have a veritable smorgasbord of details on Karrion Kross's WWE release.
Karrion Kross allegedly told not to acknowledge fan support.
And apparently his contract talks were very disappointing.
Wilborn.
I don't know why I made that spooky.
It is a bit spooky.
Maybe they brought in some bats.
Yeah.
Threw them at him or something.
Smashed up his, this sand thing called?
Oh, the
clock.
The sand thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the news.
Egg timer.
Thank you.
There you go. Timepiece. That could be a watch. That could be anything. Right, let's talk about Karrion Kross, because he's the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. Mm-hmm. He's got all the power, and I've run out of words that rhyme with hour. But yeah, there's a bunch of new details going around. Obviously, his WWE departure was confirmed yesterday. Fightful have a really big report on it that I'm going to discuss in a second. But he's done like a documentary vlog type thing that he's put out on YouTube very quickly. Him and Scarlett, that we'll talk a little bit about as well. And also, we'll have a second video today talking about whether or not this whole thing is a work. So if you're interested in those kind of topics, that will be out later today. But for now, we're just aggregating the news as I burp my way through life. Yeah, let's talk about this Fightful report then. So Fightful reporting that apparently last week, Kross and Scarlett were originally set to travel to Raw, but their plans were changed by WWE and they weren't at the show. Fightful doesn't know if contract talks actually happened between the two parties, although we're about to talk about some of them. But apparently they told people within the industry that there had been no notice of expiration from WWE, which is what usually happens. So they would usually go, hey, we're not renewing, bye-bye. Maybe not as cold as that, but they would usually give some kind of notice. In this case, that did not happen. Now, talent were apparently surprised it went down to the wire. Every day it seems like we have a new update on their contractual status, particularly as WWE usually does these things well ahead of time these days. Fightful spoke a little bit about potential landing points. They noted that the split with TNA was not great. There's some Don Callis stuff you can Google. But it's an entirely new regime in TNA now. Carlos Silva is the main man over there. TNA higher-ups have indicated that there's no ill will whatsoever with Kross and so forth. And Don Callis doesn't work there anymore. No. So there you go. That's probably a thing. There's an active partnership, however, with WWE that could maybe impact the prospect of working with TNA or AAA as well, which he's been there before too. MLW, another promotion he's worked for in the past, those sources they just think it's a work.
Okay, fair enough.
So fair enough, according to those sources. But WWE sources have been told the departure is real. Again, we'll debate the work stuff later on. Is it a work? Is it a good idea? Tune in. Now, Fightful note there is a possibility that it's fake and it's not real. But if that's the case, they have worked a lot of people in the industry who've been told the situation was real. And a number of companies actually don't know if they can reach out or if they should reach out to Kross and Scarlett because they don't know if it's legit. Both Kross and Scarlett have posted like tweets going, here's my email address, contact me. Scarlett's post was a bit longer. Kross's was very short, very simple, very to the point. Yeah, I feel like we've been talking about his future since maybe just like WrestleMania when he did that. When you did the sweary kind of work shoot promo.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Where he literally said "F you WWE." So that's 4 months we've been kind of covering this. Fightful reported yesterday that he legitimately both of them have been removed from the roster. Ashanti the Adonis went over the weekend as well.
Yeah, sorry to see that.
He confirmed his departure via social media too. But yeah, there you go. Lots of new details on Mr. Kross and Ms. Scarlett. What do you think?
Yeah, I have a lot of things I want to say with regard to the work aspect of this, but we'll save that for the second news video as you mentioned. Yeah, I sort of was watching this as it unfolded yesterday on X, because there was all the speculation at the close of last week, at the start of the weekend, about like, it's this weekend, it's happening, whatever happens. Yeah. And then it was one of those things where it sort of played out the way it usually does if someone departs the company. Like I say, with a variety of the usual sort of Twitter accounts saying, oh, if you've noticed, actually they've moved Kross and Scarlett to the alumni section, which usually happens here. Then I saw the Fightful report because I did like the bit with Sean a few days ago when people were like, is Kross done with the company? This is in the media aftermath. of the show, of course, and SummerSlam, I mean, and he sort of went, well, no, the stipulation was he has to acknowledge that he was wrong about Sami, so he'd probably be on Raw. And then this Fightful report backs up that they were booked, then their travel plans were changed, and then it seems like, well, on Raw they were like, well, Sami Zayn beat some guy, who cares? Forget about him. Moving on next, he's going to surprise appearance on SmackDown, for example. So it does seem like this could be it for them. Like you say, I feel like TNA is an open door for him, AEW less so for all the reasons you laid out there. But yeah, it's one of those where you say we've been talking about this for 4 months, and usually when we are talking about a contract dispute or a contract expiration, someone like AJ Styles, for example, that we talked about fairly regularly recently, it either happens or it doesn't, and then we sort of go, right, well, there we go, put that on the shelf, and we'll revisit that in a year's time or whatever. This, I feel like, is a story we're going to be talking about throughout this week, more so.
Yeah, I think so, and we've done a lot of talking about Karrion Kross' situation recently, of course, but this is the most concrete development in all of it so far. So yeah, he had the feud with Sami, obviously, that was the most involved he's been on WWE TV this year. Prior to that, it wasn't really being used a whole lot.
Popped up at WrestleMania, it wasn't on the show, was it? It wasn't like on the card, I mean.
Which he says Logan Paul pushed for, apparently. So that's interesting. But the WrestleMania appearance felt more like, oh yeah, like rather than as a result of him being deeply involved or anything. Obviously, he'd been finagling in backstage segments and interfering and sowing his seeds.
But you sense it wasn't like on the whiteboard. What are we doing with Karrion Kross?
Yeah, for sure. It never really felt like he was a top priority for the people who are writing the shows. Whether or not he should have been a bigger deal or whatever. I mean, look, there was certainly a clamour for him online for sure, 100%. And usually when there's that kind of reaction or response, while it's always a bit difficult to look too much into online stuff, there were some positive crowd reactions in arenas as well. A couple of them were a little bit sweetened, shall we say. I mean, once you've heard one fake, you've heard them all. But that's not to say it all was. I'm fascinated by this PSYOP theory. I don't think I believe it, but it's funny.
It's a weird person to be like, I'm a fan of Karrion Kross, but like a weird person to be like, that's the guy you want to do it with. But you mentioned the fan support there, Andy, and we saw it, like you say, from way back in April when he was involved in the Andre, which I think was that one by Mello, that one?
Yes, it was.
But there was huge support for him winning that on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. Then you mentioned his involvement in Mania, and subsequent to that, we've heard and seen reactions on like Main Event and things like that. And obviously there was the thing we talked about surrounding the Brock Lesnar story, where they've got that panel following SummerSlam, and the crowd are like, we want Kross, we want Kross. The crowd support's still there for him, despite his relatively brief loss against Sami Zayn.
Yes.
And Triple H, for one reason or another, went, you want Brock? You got him. That's not who they were chanting for. But yeah, continuing this talk about his documentary, Andy, on the Killer Part 2, he discusses the fan support and this wave of momentum he's got from it, and WWE's seeming insistence that he not really acknowledge it, basically. Saying, I remember in the beginning people were saying, hey, I wouldn't take it seriously, it's not going to last, or hey, let's see if it's for real when you go out there tonight, or if it's still there when we're in a different city or a different state. Then when it was still there and it got louder and louder and louder every week, that went away, and it was kind of like, well, we're not really ready to fully embrace that. I was being told by certain people, don't acknowledge it, which felt really wrong, because having a connection with the audience, especially one that is like this doesn't just come around for everybody. It wasn't something that was constructed or thought of. This happened organically through a series of events, and I wouldn't even say it's something that happened recently this year. This is something that's happening because of what's happened over the last 3 years. I don't feel like we're all collectively going in the direction the audience would like us to go in, and that part doesn't feel good. And he concluded talking about this, saying, you can't ignore the crowd in this business. That pisses people off and turns people away. Echoes I got from this of years ago, different regime obviously, but Rusev Day to a certain extent. Do you remember when they were talking about this huge support for Rusev and Rusev Day, and the authorities at the time, let's say, were telling him, everyone's just not really that bothered. They're taking the piss, really. They're not actually fans. They're just doing it for like banter or whatever.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were fully behind Rusev, and it was a real dumb decision to sort of completely ignore that. It's dumb to ignore the audience at any point in the business. But yeah, it's surreal that they're like, don't, we're always about listening to the crowd and getting these crowd reaction and getting these moments, as we always talk about.
Yeah.
But don't acknowledge this. Pretend like they're not actually cheering for you.
Yeah, it's a Vince McMahon hallmark.
Yeah.
Like, don't you dare get over on your own outside of my plans, because I'll put you 6 feet deep. I mean, Zack Ryder, Daniel Bryan, millions of times before they were finally forced at WrestleMania 30 to put him over the top,
which was always the plan, obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was always on the cards.
We'll bury him in the Rumble.
Yeah.
We'll put him with the Wyatts for a bit.
So I think, like, something about Triple H, right? A lot of people are really hesitant to criticize their dear beloved Papa H or whatever. But the thing about Triple H is that he learned everything he knows about promoting a wrestling company from his father-in-law.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't come as a surprise, assuming this is legitimate, right? And assuming that the thing doesn't end up being a work and all of this stuff, and that I have no reason to believe that Kross is not speaking the truth here.
No.
I think he's very frank and forthcoming. But, like, this is a clear Vince McMahon behavior from whoever's told him. Certain people, he said, telling him not to acknowledge the... Look, it's counterproductive. Look, you can't cater to the audience's every single whim, right? You can't listen to every small... what's the word I'm looking for?
It does change city to city, so for certain people.
Yeah, for sure. Like, some things can be fly-by-night, some things can be anomalies. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's it, yeah.
So if it was like one night where he was getting a cheer, and then you go back, you go to the next show and everyone's like boo again or whatever, it's like, okay, fine. Sometimes you're right to ignore stuff like that, but this felt like it was every single time.
Yeah. And online,
was
it's a bit like saying, I love AJ Styles and I think he's incredibly talented, but it is a bit like going, well, this France crowd really like him. I guess he's taking the title off Cody, I assume.
Maybe AJ should be the world champion.
Yeah.
And look, he should. He rules. But not at that time. It's a classic Vince McMahon play, this.
Yes, and I will say this, it's not just him sort of copying Vince's homework. I'm a big fan of Triple H and his booking and what have you, but he is a guy, you cannot deny this, who loves a bit of long-term booking and really doesn't like it if things, outside factors that he isn't controlling, gets involved with it. Now, obviously, it was rather a big deal and understandable that they did this when the whole Cody situation happened on the build to WrestleMania 40, where it's like, oh, we do have to pivot this.
Yeah.
I know it's The Rock. I know it's the end of Roman Reigns' streak and what have you, title reign. But it's Cody. This is make or break time for the entire of WWE right now. Outside of that, you look at the situation with someone like R-Truth, who they go, I can't be bothered. We'll release him. Who cares? Yeah. Oh, there's a big groundswell of support for him. Right. We have to acknowledge that, and we'll re-sign him and bring him back for a bit. But they did kind of go like, and then he beats Aleister Black in 2 minutes and pisses off, so we can carry on with our storyline with Damian Priest and Aleister Black. He's back now, but he's back being, hey, I'm John Cena's mate.
Yeah, exactly. And that, again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in the second video, because I think there's an interesting parallel there. But let's talk about some more Kross stuff from the documentary, from The Killer Part 2. He's talking about his contract negotiations and all of that stuff. So, Fightful had not heard of any negotiations taking place, per that report earlier. Kross seems to intimate that they did take place, which is fine. That's how things work.
Yeah.
Kross said the following: I expressed interest to renegotiate in early January with WWE. I think it's crazy preposterous that anyone would think that I wouldn't want to be here or like to go somewhere else. It's frustrating because you express your interest to stay and be here and do things. I'm not going to beg. I've already been clear. Good. Dignity. But he continued saying, many months have gone by and we never had a single conversation about it until recently, and I don't even feel like the conversation I've had recently was an actual serious one. The conversation made me really angry because I just didn't feel like it was a real conversation. There wasn't really anything of substance. Nothing was discussed of substance. Actually, it didn't make me angry and it didn't make me upset. It just made me profoundly disappointed because I think about this business probably differently than the person I was speaking to because of the nature of what I do. So yeah, sounds like he had some talks and they were rubbish.
I can understand his frustrations. He's a very creative individual. He's not just someone who turns up and collects his paycheck and does whatever he wants to do. He's always, you sense, working on something, even if the booking doesn't necessarily lay that out for him. But yeah, it's a weird situation for a contract negotiation, isn't it? Because normally, if you had someone with this sort of support behind them whose contract was coming up, they'd be in a position of power to be like, right, well, this is going to be the best contract I'm probably going to get, so here's my terms. And whilst that is true, or has been true for the last few months, I don't think there's ever been such a wave of support for Karrion Kross in WWE like this one. Even when he was like NXT champion and all that shenanigans with him moving to the main roster. And yet, WWE will view this as like, well, where else are you going to go? We're in a position of power, and we can sort of either lowball you or, like you say, sort of casually enter conversation. Imagine in your job, like if your job was, constantly getting re-upped basically, and you go like, by the way, don't forget, I've got my contract running out in a few months' time, and you go, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not going to talk about this, or I just won't show up in August if that's the case. And they're like, yeah, we'll sort something. It's a weird business, and yeah, man, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah, it sounds frustrating.
Absolutely.
In the extreme.
He's also had so many back and forth. Sorry to interrupt, but he's had so many back and forth with WWE of like, this big prospect in NXT. We want to do big things with you. Right, we're going to make you Spartacus or whatever that was, and you're going to lose immediately on the main roster. Right, goodbye. Right, Triple H is in charge now. You're one of his guys. We're going to bring you back, and then we're not going to do anything with you.
He re-debuted in an angle with Roman Reigns, for goodness sake.
Of course, yeah.
So, like, straight in at the top, and then just cycled down.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the people Triple H brought back, though, that's been the trajectory for them, and it's a shame. We all remember the goofy Infinity Gauntlet memes that were doing the rounds.
I was about to mention that,
at that time. And while it's nice to see people getting their jobs back and stuff, it's like, do something with people, help them out.
Yeah, don't sign people, because a lot of them weren't necessarily struggling. Like people like Braun Strowman, Dakota Kai, they are going to be fine regardless of what happens to them. So if you haven't got a big idea of like, well, when we bring them back, because I'm a fan of theirs and I want to do stuff with them, we're going to do this. Don't just sign them and go, got anything? Or
exactly. So yeah,
is it all work? That's the question.
Well, we'll answer that in the afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this video here. Look, if I was Karrion Kross, I'd be frustrated and annoyed as well. And upset and all the other words he's used.
You know what he can do is take his mind off it though.
He can watch this video right here. This is 12 ribs, brutal wrestling ribs that made it to live TV. All right, see you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.